It started when I was a freshman in high school. I met a kid named TJ, who was on the baseball and football teams with me. We weren't close, but I had been to his house a few times and even stayed over. One night, I went to TJ's place with my good friend, Finn. After a bit, TJ suggested we go meet some friends messing around on the roof of a school. When we got there, his friends weren't around, so we started walking through a community college nearby. At this point, I asked where we were going, but TJ just ignored me. We ran into a group of his friends, some I'd met briefly before. They were troublemakers. Out of nowhere, one of TJ's friends accused me of talking bad about his mom, which I hadn't. TJ egged him on, and suddenly I was in a fight. I held my own, but they were more interested in making a spectacle, even placing bets. I was outnumbered, bleeding from my eye, and Finn didn't do a thing to help. Eventually, I walked away, but TJ took pictures, and a video got passed around the baseball team. It was humiliating. Days later, I found out TJ had been sent to a mental hospital because he told someone he wanted to come to school and hurt me. I had to take him to court to get a restraining order, but the judge didn't grant it. I was lucky to get away that night, and I hope TJ never does this to anyone else. When I was in high school, I had to walk down a long, quiet street to catch the bus. It wasn't a big deal, but one morning, I noticed a man standing just inside the tree line of a neighbor's yard. He looked like he was hiding. It struck me as odd, but I brushed it off and caught the bus. That afternoon, walking home, I saw him again in the same area. This time, he was standing a little more in the open, and I got a clearer view of him. He was wearing a gray sweatshirt and jeans, but his face was mostly hidden by the shadows. I felt uneasy, but I kept walking. Halfway down my street, I looked back and saw him standing in the middle of the road. He was slowly walking in my direction. My heart raced, but I was still far enough ahead to make it to my house. I got inside quickly, locked the door, and looked out the window. But he was gone. The next morning, he was back in the woods. I walked faster, hoping he wouldn't follow me again. But this time I heard footsteps behind me. The man was about 100 feet back, walking in the middle of the road. I couldn't wait for the bus. I walked along the side of the road until I saw the bus coming. As I got on the bus, I saw him disappear into the woods. I told the bus driver, who dropped me off at my house from then on. Thankfully, I never saw him again. One Friday night, my friends and I went to a high school football game. The games were a big deal in our town, with almost the entire city showing up. After the game, we decided to hang out for a bit before heading to my friend's house. As we left the parking lot, we noticed a car following us. At first, we thought it was someone from school playing a prank. But as we got closer to my friend's house, the car stayed right behind us. We pulled over, expecting it to be a classmate. But when the driver got out, we realized this wasn't a joke. A man, probably in his 30s, started walking toward us. We panicked and quickly got back into my car. The man reached the back door and tried to open it. I floored it and sped away, with my friends telling me to hurry. I drove through a nearby park, cutting through on a path meant for walking. We lost him, but the whole situation left us shaken. We didn't go back to my friend's house that night, but we were lucky nothing worse happened. In high school, a new student named Brad joined my class. Right from the start, I didn't like him. He seemed arrogant and uninterested in school. He skipped classes and was always on his phone. But for some reason, some of my friends started hanging out with him. One night, my friend Jamie texted me, asking for a ride home. He said he was at the school's lower parking lot, so I drove over to pick him up. When I arrived, I didn't see Jamie, but Brad was there. As soon as I got out of my car, Brad got in my face, clearly looking for a fight. Before I could react, another guy, who I didn't recognize, appeared from behind a car. It was clear they had planned this. They both came at me, and I barely had time to defend myself before I was on the ground. Brad kicked me, and his friend joined in. I managed to get up and ran as fast as I could, heading into the woods behind the school. They chased me for a bit, but gave up when I disappeared into the trees. After a few minutes, I made my way back to the parking lot and drove home. During my senior year of high school, I often stayed late after basketball games to lift weights. One night after a game, I headed to the weight room, which was tucked away in a quieter part of the school. After my workout, I walked past the janitor's closet and noticed a man hiding inside. At first, I thought I was seeing things, but I quickly realized someone was in there. I didn't want to confront him, so I kept walking, hoping to find one of the night janitors. As I walked down the hall, I heard footsteps behind me. Whoever was in the closet was now following me. My heart started racing, but I stayed calm and kept moving toward the exit. The footsteps got closer, and I knew I had to leave. I rushed out of the building and around to another door where I called my coach. He let me back inside to grab my stuff, but the man was nowhere to be found. To this day, I don't know who he was or what he was doing in the school that night, but it still creeps me out when I think about it.